Good evening and welcome to the Top 25 Rundown presented by the Sportscast. Today is May 15th, 2024. If you haven't yet, please subscribe on all your channels YouTube, Twitter, Twitch.tv, and Apple Podcasts. If you are on Apple Podcasts, please leave a rating review. It'll help us out tremendously. We are also on DAB Digital Radio. You can listen to us on your sports speaker, play Sportscast. Visit us on the sportscast.net. Also follow us on Twitter at the Sportscast1 and check it out the Sportscast in the iOS App Store. Hello, my name is Alan West. Welcome to another edition of the Top 25 Rundown. And, well, he's been away on assignment, but I am joined tonight by Jack of all trades and master of a lot more than me, Mr. Bob Alvis. How we doing, sir?
I don't know what the assignments were. I probably didn't complete them, but we'll do our best and make it through today.
I think he made it. I mean, you were trying to look up a few things I hadn't planned on yet, so pretty sure you prepared more than I did for that. But
I'll tell you this. I'll tell you this real quick. I don't mean to get off on a
mhm,
tangent, but I have, let's see, one, two, three, four, five sports calendars each day. And I look at the next day and it brings up names to me that I remember for my, immaculate grid, which I'm obsessed with on the
mhm.
internet. But then it also makes me it makes me probably smarter in the historical realm than it does in the current realm. But hey, I know what's going on. Might not know it as good as you do, but I know what's going on.
I mean, you probably got me beat in certain aspects, so we've talked about that. But I mean, I was able to stump you on something
Yep.
this morning, which that doesn't happen very often. So,
Shocking trivia question you had for me too.
yes, sir. But real quick, is- I'd like to think that you and me, we try to focus on doing the best we can for the podcast. Is that fair to say?
I would hope so.
Okay. So I found out, I'm sure you saw this as well, how Dud Gottlieb, he is going to be Green Bay's new men's head basketball coach, and he's still going to host his national sports radio show.
He was on Dan
How do you?
Patrick today. I was just watching that when before we started, by the way.
Nice. How do you feel about that, sir?
I don't know that I am impartial on this because you were talking to one of the biggest non Doug Gottlieb fans that there is. But let me take my bias out of it because I can separate. I think for anybody to do that, because I don't know if you saw the interview that he had on Patrick today, he was bringing up the fact that Dan Patrick used to hop over and do TV and radio and this and that. And Gottlieb had been doing, um, multiple jobs, excuse me, like Westwood One, Compass Media, streaming stuff for Stadium, Fox Sports One, Fox Sports Radio, and the list goes on and on. Well, now he's down to two. Well, this is a big two, though. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I would not feel comfortable under any circumstance if my coach at a college institution was anything more than a guest, oh, a guest like on your show, a guest
Mm-hmm.
once a week. I would not feel comfortable with my coach coaching and doing a radio show. Now, granted, he's going to have a staff, and he even said on there, the staff is going to know what I don't know. Like they're going to, I'm hiring people to know what I don't know and to have them run that stuff successfully. I don't know if I answered your question at all, but I think I don't know how you're going to be able to do either one well. But I mean, in my opinion, ain't great on the. I'm just not a fan, but I don't know that he is my cup of tea for the radio stuff. So I don't know that I would say he's excelling in that, in my personal opinion. But that's just me.
I have never been a Doug Gottlieb fan myself. And then when you look at the article, how it talks about he originally was going to Notre Dame till, well, he decided he needed to get a few things, and his teammates' credit cards helped him to do that.
I want to say there were rumors back before Mike Boynton took the Oklahoma State job, that Gottlieb was for an Oklahoma State thing. And I think, everybody had made it out with people who had never been politicians are running for offices for the first time. People who have never been coaches are coaching for the first time at a high major level, or what we might see soon, what I have a feeling, you're going to have some people coaching at a professional level who've never coached before. And I think that is a extreme, I don't know if disservice is the word, but I mean, if you took anybody who is quote unquote been around the game, now granted Gottlieb played, so that helps him out a little bit. But if you took I can't think of somebody, anybody that's been doing the media thing on a regular basis and then stick them into coaching, I don't think it's fair. Hubert Davis is a great example. Hubert played. Hubert actually sat on the bench with Roy, I think, for 1 or 2 years before he got the head job. I mean, again, I don't know that I would do it. If I was in a hiring position to bring in somebody who had never coached before, but I'm that type of guy who wants to see some experience rather than, taking a. That's just me though. But I mean, and at the same time, with all due respect, it's Wisconsin Green Bay. I mean, it's not like he's going to Wisconsin. So,
True, but the thing is, for Gottlieb, from what I've seen of him on the radio and just how he is, he's better at burning bridges and keeping them going. Just from what I've seen. I could be wrong, though.
I would agree with that. I mean, the thing I think is coaching is going to be a whole different boat for him. And, I get the fact that people bring in people who have never coached before or never have been. And I hate to keep bringing it up, but I cannot think of another example aside from, politicians and coaches.
What about
And
Mike Mayock becoming the general manager for
good one.
the Raiders? I
So
want to
coaches,
say.
front office executives, and politicians that get first time.
Matt Millen for the Lions was another
Yep.
example.
But I mean, eventually Mayock and Millen both came from the TV/playing world, kind of like what Gottlieb has done. I mean, I think you just have to, anything you do, and this from working jobs. Anywhere you go, you have to learn how to play the game. If you don't learn how to play the game, you're going to be stuck where you are. So I think Gottlieb will probably learn how to assimilate to what Wisconsin Green Bay and college basketball is going to do. I kind of do like the fact, based on everything I said, I kind of like the fact that he's maybe that rebel and doesn't know anything, but it doesn't mean success. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, we wish him the best of luck, but it's kind of curious to see how that goes. Also, in a different realm for college sports, I see that there's breaking news in the field of gymnastics. Gymnast Selena Harris was dismissed by UCLA and she's in the transfer portal. She was the 2024 Pac-12 Gymnast of the Year, a 12-time All-American, and she was the number one recruit in her freshman class and was Pac-12 Freshman of the Year. She had 4 perfect scores, won the Pac-12 all-around title at the conference championship, and finished the regular season tied number 1 in the nation on vault. It's kind of sketchy right there. I don't know what happened, but when you're a top gymnast, and she even finished 3rd place on the balance beam at the NCAA championships, and all of a sudden UCLA dismisses her from the team. Something happened there that they really don't want to talk about. So,
yeah, and that's a sticky situation, because I think anytime you hear something like that, I think the first thought that your mind goes to is probably something above athletics. And just I always say this too: if you got problems, just because you move, your problems don't stay where they're at. So that's one I'll say best of luck to her and to
Mm-hmm.
UCLA for having to move on that one because, you know, I doubt UCLA woke up on one day and said, "Hey, we're going to dismiss the top gymnast from our team." So yeah,
Well, if they did, that's a heck of a memo to get.
yeah.
That and yeah. Have you paid attention to the combine at all for the men's basketball?
A little bit.
All right. So before we jump into that, real quick, we do want to congratulate UCLA for winning the water polo national title over Cal this weekend. I don't know if you watched that game, but I did. It was pretty exciting. They won.
I do love me some water polo. I didn't get a chance to check it out, but that is I think that's a sport that requires a ton of athleticism.
Yeah, and I mean, Cal had the lead first. UCLA fought back, and in the second half, they pulled away. So, congratulations to them. Now, when I was looking, so since you go ahead and why don't you talk about the combine a little bit? Just because there's one event I want to talk about afterwards, but I want you to start it off.
Well, I mean, mine would kind of probably be more draft related. I think this is one of those years to where, it's funny because I don't know that the draft is that deep, but it puts a lot more pressure on general managers and everything to, not screw it up. I hear Zach Edey is rising, which I think is justified. I mean, Zach Edey played his tail off in the Purdue UConn game.
Hmm.
So I mean, I think Edey's well deserved on that. Obviously, uh, the talk of the NBA draft is going to be Bronny, no doubt, and I'm very interested to see how that works out. He's been working out good, from what I hear. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, my thoughts are probably more draft related than they are combine related, but yeah, I mean, it's always an interesting spot to raise your stock, so to speak.
Yeah, no, I had seen something about Bronny earlier today for his high jump or his vertical jump, and it talked about how many different all stars or all different players he jumped higher than. Let's see if I can find that because it was
I'll be honest with you. I think you really got to watch out with now I'm not a draft expert nor am I an executive, so that those people know more than I do. But I really think you have to watch out and be careful when you get into boats like that because Jamarcus Russell measured great and his numbers were off the charts. And I don't mean to be a jerk, but how'd that work out?
yeah.
Not well for the Raiders, nor not well for Jamarcus probably had a little bit of a cash flow pickup on it, but I don't know what he's doing now, but he ain't making money playing professional football.
True, true. I mean, here I'll this has a little bit about it. It's his max vert. He jumped 40.5, and so he had a higher max vert than Derrick Rose back in 2008 with a 40, Scotty Barnes with a 39.5 in 2021, Damian Lillard with 39.5 in 2012, Aaron Gordon with 39 in 2014, John Wall with a 39 in 2010, and Russell Westbrook with a 36 and a half. Now, I mean, I'm not going to say that that's going to completely translate later on, but that still is somewhat impressive because I believe he weighs 210 pounds, they said.
Right.
So, I mean, we'll see what happens, 100%, but that still is pretty impressive just to see how that is.
Yeah, I mean, end of
Should,
the day, I think the whole thing with Bronny is, unfortunately, I don't think it's about Bronny at
no,
this
it's not.
point. And we'll have to see. I mean, like I said, I don't think it's all about Bronny, but the other thing too is Bronny's probably got a bigger, I don't know if target's the right word, but probably a bigger thing to prove than most people would,
Spotlight.
because
Let's say
what's gonna
spotlight.
I haven't heard, yeah, spotlight's probably a good word. I haven't heard people talk about this. What's gonna happen? Let's just hypothetically assume that Bronny gets drafted in round 2. And Bronny, let's just say Bronny gets drafted by the Lakers, just for giggles.
Hmm.
The Lakers assign LeBron to probably a max deal. What happens if they release Bronny? I have not heard anybody talk about that. All I've heard people talk about is LeBron's going to go where Bronny goes, which makes 100% sense. But I have heard
Hmm.
nobody talk about what happens if Bronny can't. I mean, if Bronny's there, we're not talking about Bronny playing. If Bronny's there, I think that's going to make the old man happy, so to speak. But what if
Yeah,
Bronny doesn't stay on the team?
that's true. I mean, we'll see what happens. I mean, it's kind of like how the Bucks have Giannis and Thanasis Antetokounmpo. So I mean, we'll see. We'll just have to keep our uh, keep our fingers crossed and just watch how that goes.
If
To
if I'm not
the
mistaken, Greek
Mhm.
Freak's brother tore his knee or something. I thought he tore something.
Not sure. We'll have to look at that another
One
point.
of the one of the Greek Freak siblings, I think, did, but I thought it was the one that was playing.
Okay. I thought, yeah, I know Giannis is having some knee trouble, so
Well, it wasn't him. That would make bigger news.
yeah.
If Giannis, like, I want to say the person ruptured his Achilles.
Okay. I don't think it was the Nasus. I think it was the other one, but we'll see. Also, just for the ones who have been watching women's college basketball, Caitlin Clark did have her opening game yesterday. She had a double double with 20 points, 10 turnovers, 3 assists, and 2 steals. So interesting start, and we'll just see how that goes for her. Congratulations for doing that. For women's basketball, we saw that her head coach retired yesterday, and her assistant is going to be taking over with a Judy. Looks like Judy Bluter, I guess is her name. Is that right?
I thought it was Jan Jensen.
Well, she's going to be the new head coach.
Okay.
She's taking over for Bluter,
Yes.
which I mean, it's definitely the right time for her to take over because I mean, actually, Lisa Bluter, I apologize, but I mean, she's been there 40 years coaching, so Jan Jensen's going to be her replacement.
And I think Jan Jensen's been with her for a while.
Yeah, Jan Jensen has not only been with her the entire time at Iowa. When Bluter was at Drake, she was the assistant there. And then you already saw Tara DeWeaver retired after 30 years at Stanford. They're going to name the court after her. Kate Pay is going to be the successor there. Real quick, Lou, I see that they have the school coaches that have left and who's coming in. Let's run through some of these and see if you recognize any of these names. Ready?
Go for it.
All right. Looks like Alabama A&M. Margaret Richards left. Don Thornton's in. Arkansas Pine Bluff, Don Thornton out, Eric Leak in. UC Santa Barbara, Bonnie Henriksen out, Renee Jimenez in. Cal State Northridge, Carly Mitchell out, Angie Ned in. Canessas, Sahir Nazabeh out, Tiffany Swafford in. Charlotte, Kara Consuegra out, Tamika Reed in. Chattanooga, Sean Poppy out, Deidre Shermer in. Clemson, Amanda Bob Butler out, Sean Poppy in. Eastern Michigan, Fred Castro out, Sahir Nuzaba in. Georgetown, Daryl Haney went from being the interim coach to being the head coach. Green Bay, Kevin Borses out, Kayla Kyrus in. Hampton, David Six out, Tamisha Augustin in. Iowa, Carrie Egamy out, to be determined for in. Iowa, Lisa Bluter out, Jen Jensen in. Jackson State, Tamika Reed out, Margaret Richards in. Kentucky, Kyra Elsie out, Kenny Brooks in. Marquette, Megan Duffy out, Kara Consuegra in. Marshall, Kim Caldwell out, Julie Folks in. UMBC, Jonetta Hayes out, Candace Hill in. Miami, Katie Mayer out, Trisha Cullop in. Monmouth, Ginny Bogus out, Kat Wetmore in. Or Kate Wetmore in. North Alabama, Missy Tiber out, Candy Whitaker in. Robert Morris, Charlie Buscalia out, Chandler McCabe in. South Dakota, Kayla Kyrus out, Gary Egme in. Stanford, Tara Weaver out, Kate Pay in. Stony Brook, Ashley Langford out, Joy McCorvey in. Tennessee, Kelly Harper out, Kim Caldwell in. Toledo, Trisha Cullop out, Ginny Bogus in. Tulane, Lisa Stockton out, Ashley Langford in. Utah State, Kayla Ard out, Wesley Brooks in. Virginia Tech, Penny Brooks out, Megan Duffy in. And Youngstown State, John Nicholas out, Melissa Jackson in. Like I said, for Georgetown, he had been the interim head coach before the season because Tasha Butts had been going through cancer treatment and later passed away. And then for Youngstown State, Nicholas had been the interim head coach for the whole year. Now, Bob, I didn't recognize many of those names for women's basketball. Did you?
It's been the names I recognize were probably the names that had already been somewhere. Obviously, Kenny Brooks goes from
Mm-hmm.
Tech to Kentucky. Marquette goes from Marquette to Tech. I want to say Caldwell goes from Marshall to Tennessee. So you're having some of the lower mid-major schools going up to majors, or you're having major schools go to what I would call P5s. Bonnie Hendrickson name rang a bell because Bonnie Hendrickson used to be the head coach at Virginia Tech in the mid 90s. Went to Kansas for a bit. So that name rang a bell. But yeah, I mean, I think women's basketball is at a good point because you're at a point, I think, where you can prove yourself. So,
yeah, I mean, normally we don't get the chance to look into stuff like that, but that was somewhat impressive. Now, have you been watching any of lacrosse going on this last week?
not a ton. Just with my schedule right now, I have not been a good watcher of anything.
The question is, have you been able to breathe at all some of the time?
Well, I'm here, so if I wasn't breathing, I wouldn't be here.
That's fair. That's fair. I'll give you that one. I'll give you that one.
The breaths
Because
aren't deep, though. We'll put it that way.
not touching that one anyway. So last weekend we had the first round of the men's lacrosse tournament. We had Virginia beat St. Joseph's 17-11. We had Duke beat Utah 19-7. We had Denver beat Michigan 16-11. We had Maryland beat Princeton 16-8 on Saturday. On Sunday, we had Johns Hopkins beat Lehigh 13-10. We had Georgetown beat Penn State 12-9. We had Notre Dame beat University of Albany 14-9. And we had Syracuse beat Towson 20-15. So for this Saturday, we have Georgetown and Notre Dame at noon on ESPNU. We have Maryland going against Duke at 2:30 on ESPNU on Saturday. Sunday, we have Denver going against Syracuse. And we have Virginia going against Johns Hopkins. First game's at 12, second game's at 2:30. Those are going to be probably some of the best games that we would see all year, in my opinion, sir.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to try to watch. I mean, if you haven't watched men's lacrosse at the highest level, you're really missing out because it's a lot of, the big thing I would say is there's quite a bit of speed in the game. If you have seen lacrosse before, you might find it to be quote unquote slow. I do not sense that at the Division One major level. It's a lot of speed, a lot of skill, and those tournament games, they're a lot of them are pick'ems. I mean, if you ask me to pick winners in a lot of these games, I would not feel confident on most of them. But there should be some good games in the NCAA tournament.
That is true. And well, since we just looked at the men, let's look at the women real quick. Because on Friday, they had their first round. Well, I think the best way, as you're going to hear these scores, you're going to think blowouts. Because Maryland beat Robert Morris 17-1. Penn beat Richmond 16-5. Yale beat Binghamton 17-4. Notre Dame beat Coastal Carolina 24-6. Stony Brook beat Niagara 19-7. Virginia beat Long Island 21-6. Denver beat Stanford 13-12. There's a close one. James Madison upset Penn State 14-13. Loyola beat Duke 16-11. Johns Hopkins beat Fairfield 11-5. Michigan beat Mercer 17-6. Princeton beat Drexel 14-9. And Florida beat North Carolina 17-8. Let's see. Then we had the second round games where Boston College beat Princeton 21-16. Michigan beat Notre Dame 15-14. Maryland beat James Madison 17-7. Loyola lost to Penn 12-9. Florida beat Virginia 13-8. Syracuse beat Stony Brook 15-10. Number 1 Northwestern beat Denver 17-4. And Yale beat Johns Hopkins 9-7. So we've got the next games coming up tomorrow. And in those matchups, you have Florida against Maryland at 12 noon on ESPNU. Then you have Yale against Syracuse at 2:30. You have Michigan going against Boston College at 5. And you have Northwestern going against Penn at 7:30. If I had to pick any game here, Bob, I would have to say the only game I feel confident that's probably going to be a win would be Northwestern.
Yeah, you're probably right. I mean, like I said, I don't feel good on any of them to throw a winner, but I'd probably go with you on that one.
Because, I mean, the only thing that we can definitely tell about for sports, especially lacrosse, you're going to have winners and losers, but it's going to be insane. So we're
Can't hear you.
East College. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
All right. So one of the main things you've always looked forward to, it's the Women's College World Series, the road to the finals. So they announced the regionals and the different teams that are in there. Are you ready?
Go for it.
All right. First regional we have is Austin. You have Siena going against the one seed Texas. Then you have Northwestern going against St. Francis. Those games are on Friday, 4 p.m. and 6:30. Then you'll have the three games on Saturday, and the last two, if needed, will be on Sunday. Double elimination. The next region you have Cleveland State going against Oklahoma, which is number two. Then you have Oregon and Boston University. Oklahoma's games at 8 p.m. on ESPNU. Oregon and Boston University is 5:30 p.m. on ESPN Plus. Same for how it's going to be on Saturday and on Sunday. Then you have the Knoxville Regional. You have Dayton going against number three Tennessee at 2:30 on ESPN Plus. Then you have Virginia going against Miami at noon on ESPN Plus. Same for the three games on Saturday and the two on Sunday if needed. In the Gainesville Regional, you have Florida Gulf Coast going against Florida at 12 noon on the SEC Network. Game two, you have South Florida going against Florida Atlantic, 2:30 on ESPN Plus. Same situation for the other 2 days for games. In the Stillwater Regional, we have Northern Colorado going against number five Oklahoma State, 5:30 p.m. on ESPN Plus. And then in the second game, you have Kentucky going against Michigan, 3 o'clock on ESPN2. Same situation for the next two games, next 2 days of games. Then you got the Los Angeles Regional. You have Grand Canyon going against number six UCLA, 8:30 p.m. on ESPN Plus. Game two is Virginia Tech against San Diego State, 6 p.m. on ESPNU. All right, then we have the Columbia Regional. Omaha going against number seven Missouri, which is 5:30 p.m. on ESPN Plus. Game two is Washington versus Indiana, 3 p.m. ESPN Plus. Then you got the Stanford Regional, which is St. Mary's going against number eight Stanford, 10 p.m. on ESPN2. And Mississippi and Cal State Fullerton, 7:30 p.m. on ESPN Plus. Next is the Baton Rouge Regional. Jackson State going against number nine LSU, 6 p.m. on the SEC Network. Cal versus Southern Illinois, 3 p.m. on ESPN Plus. The next regional you have is in Durham. You have Morgan State going against number 10 Duke, 2:30 p.m. on ESPN Plus. You have South Carolina going against Utah at 12 noon on ESPNU. Then you have the Athens Regional, which is UNC Wilmington going against number 11 Georgia at 5:30 p.m. Then you have Liberty going against Charlotte at 3 p.m. on ESPN Plus. Next regional is in Fayetteville. You have Southeast Missouri going against number 12 Arkansas at 8:30 p.m. on ESPN Plus. Then game two is Arizona versus Villanova at 6 p.m. on ESPN Plus. Then the next regional is in Lafayette. You have Princeton going against number 13 Louisiana, 5:30 p.m. on ESPN Plus. Game two is Ole Miss versus Baylor at 8 o'clock on ESPN2. Next regionals in Tuscaloosa, where you have USC Upstate going against Alabama at 4:30 p.m. on ESPN Plus. While the second game is Clemson against Southeastern Louisiana, it's at 2 p.m. on the ACC Network. Next regional is in Tallahassee, where you've got Chattanooga going against number 15 Florida State, 4:30 on the ACC Network. Game two is Auburn going against UCF at 2 o'clock on ESPNU. And the last regional we have is Bryan College Station Regional. You have University of Albany going against Texas A&M, 6:30 ESPN Plus. The second game is Texas State versus Penn State, 4 o'clock on ESPNU. Then the Super Regionals, the best of three series will be May 23rd through May 26th. And then you got the Women's College Series, World Series, May 30th through Friday, June 7th. That's a lot. Now, sir, I don't expect you to watch all those games, Are there a few that you're looking forward to just off the top of your head?
Not really. I mean, it's kind of like with any tournament. I just look forward to the whole tournament. I mean, these teams, even your automatic bids, have gotten there for a reason. So I just look forward to the whole tournament.
Okay. Then I know we should have baseball coming up soon, so we're gonna see how that goes. And saw that George's Condon set the NCAA mark with his 34 homers, so congratulations to him. Is there anything you're noticing that you have kind of been preparing for coming up,
Nope,
sir?
not at all. Just watching the games and loving it.
That's definitely true. Last week I had been looking at men's tennis, the brackets, and I'll jump into that real quick. Because we are down to the Elite Eight in tennis now. We have Kentucky going against TCU on the 16th at 2:30. Tennessee going against Texas at 5 o'clock. You have Ohio State going against Columbia at 12. You have Virginia going against Wake Forest at 7:30 to get to the Final Four. So that is impressive. We'll see how the rest of it goes though for all of them. Just because I don't watch tennis as much, but this is the time of the year where you always hear about who has been successful or who is basically getting to the, well, as you said before one time, Bob, into the nitty gritty. With women's tennis, you have on the 17th, Michigan going against Pepperdine at 2:30, Tennessee going against UCLA at 7:30, Virginia going against Texas A&M at 5, and Georgia going against Stanford at noon. So for those sports, we wish those teams the best of luck. Let's see. It should be almost time for pick'em for the baseball. So I remember every time I try. Let's see. So we got the conference tournaments. They're gonna start next week for all the different schools. The only conference tournament that's going on right now is the Patriot League tournament. The rest of them all start by the 17th to the 21st or the 22nd. And they end usually on the 25th or the 26th. I'm kind of curious to see how this SEC tournament is going to end up, Bob.
Yeah, it should definitely be very interesting because I mean, you've got a lot of loaded teams in a tournament, and this is, the last year in some of these colleges before the things get really wonky. with the realignments and everything. So it should be very interesting.
Are there any that you've pretended to look at? Because I know that for Florida with Jack Caglione,
Not
those are
really. I
keys.
mean, standard line, like, just because I'm so interested in seeing the tournaments as a whole, I'm kind of locked in once the tournaments get going. So I don't know if I would say there's one that I'm really interested in. I mean, obviously, I have interests where I know the people or, their local interests, which is the Commonwealth of Virginia normally. But when you want to get into some bigger time, you got to pay attention to those SECs, to those Big 12s, whatever the case may be, because those are the teams you're going to be seeing play maybe your favorite teams in the College World Series when it gets to the best 2 out of 3, or even to Omaha or Oklahoma City.
Okay, that's true. We're going to find out tomorrow, bless you, for the NCAA first round selections for men's outdoor track. So that's going to be interesting, and probably about the same for the women, but let me just verify. Yep. So we get to find out about those, and I mean, we're getting down to the end of the season, end of the school year as well, but I mean, we still got a lot to see about championship wise. So I'd say we're hitting the home stretch, but in a good way. How about that?
Yep.
But let's see that. Also, I know that a lot of the colleges already had their graduation.
Right.
So for the ones who did that, congratulations to all the athletes and the students, and best of luck for your future afterwards, and may you be successful where possible. Well, sir, I think we about hit everything unless there's something you can think of I haven't tried to check in or really talk about today.
No, I think you did a great job on knocking the doors down to everything that was open.
I appreciate that, and we will see how the NBA draft goes, just because I know that they had the show that showed that Atlanta got the first pick this time,
Yep, the lottery
whereas a lot of
selection.
mm-hmm, because I know a lot of people thought Detroit was going to get it, but Atlanta was able to get it, and San Antonio now has two picks, I believe the fourth and the eighth pick as well, so they're going to be set up for either a very good draft or if they want to try to do some trades before the draft. We'll see what happens there. So I'm definitely curious about that.
Not a rich draft, so this might be the time to trade. But the only problem is, if you trade, I don't know if anybody else is really going to want the picks either, so to speak. So we'll have to see. It should definitely be interesting, like you said.
Yeah, if I'm keeping my fingers crossed about that. And correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't the Fury fight this weekend?
Fury and Usyk on Saturday.
Who do you have?
If it's a boxing match, I like Usyk. If Fury can ugly it up and just rumble around, I mean, Fury's the bigger man by quite a bit, but Usyk is more the skilled boxer. I mean, if I had to, I would take Usyk, but I mean, I wouldn't be shocked the other way. Tyson Fury worries me a little bit just because I feel like he's been inconsistent sometimes
Hmm.
with his mentality, and that's an issue. So we'll see. That should be a good fight. Should be a good fight. Usyk is really really good. If people have never watched him, I mean he's very very good. And yeah, it's gonna be it's in Saudi Arabia, so fortunately it's gonna start earlier than a lot of events. I was just looking at it now. The actual pay-per-view starts at 10 a.m. on
Hmm.
Saturday. I'm not even sure I'll be up. But I think
One.
probably the ring walk for Usyk and Fury will probably be like, I would guess probably around 3 or 4, maybe 5.
Okay. Yeah, no, just because I know that with him being Fury being a Gypsy King and Usyk's been dominant for a long time. I mean, the best comparison I could give it is remember when they said that um everyone wanted to see Mayweather and Pacquiao,
Yeah.
but then by the time we finally saw that fight, it was about 5 years too late.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I would compare either guy to a Mayweather or a Pacquiao, but yeah, Usyk is pretty dominant. I'm trying to see what time they're going to walk. I don't know the United Arab Emirates time in translating it to us, but they're going to walk at 2:05. They're expected to walk at 2:05 UAE time.
Okay.
That doesn't help me at all in this term, but because I don't have my watch set to UAE time.
Well, that time's probably going to be, even though it says UAE time, you said that the fight's going to be at the pregame for it starts around 10.
Correct. That's in the States. So, UAE time is I mean, they're fighting in Saudi Arabia. So if they're not going to walk until 2:05
Hmm.
in the morning on Sunday, I mean, it's funny because the fight that was on ESPN last week with Vasily Lomachenko and George Gambosis was in Australia.
Hmm.
That's coming under a lot of heat, by the way, for the ring announcer on one of those fights because he announced the wrong winner. I want to
Heard about
say
that.
that fight started on Sunday morning Australia time just to accommodate the TV in the United States.
I believe it. I believe it. That and isn't Jake Paul gonna have his thing with Tyson this week as well?
I don't know that that's this week. I know that's coming up. Um, but yeah, that would be available to people who are Netflix subscribers. Um, yeah, I have strong feelings about that as well. I mean, it's not my cup of tea, but you can't argue that Jake Paul is not doing the right thing. That's July 20th. So
Okay, yeah, because he
got a couple months for that one.
uh I don't think that's gonna go. I'm just gonna put that out there. I don't think that's gonna go.
I mean, it depends on what your expectations are. If you don't have many expectations, then I think you're going to be fine. If your expectations are for Mike Tyson in the 80s, then I think we got a little bit of an issue here because you're not going to get that. You're not going to get that Mike Tyson anymore. Um, Main events expected at 11 p.m. UK time is what I'm seeing on the website.
Okay,
Again,
so
I
that's
don't know
gonna
what.
be like about 6 or 7 our time, I think.
Wow. Okay. So yeah, it's going to be a long day of fights. So, but there's like, when they have these fights, you're looking at probably like 6 or 7 undercard fights. Even I'm normally not sitting through that many. I mean, I'll put it on the TV and I'll go about my day a little bit. I'm normally watching the last 4. Um, but everybody's different,
Yeah.
different on that accord.
Well, I mean,
Hey, if I'm
Usyk,
paying for it,
he's
if I'm paying for it, I like to have the option at least.
oh yeah, yeah, but Usyk, I want to say he's won his fights the last few years.
The other thing about Usyk is he's not a natural heavyweight.
Oh really?
I mean, he's not a blown up heavyweight, but he's not. He's not a natural. When I say heavyweight, maybe I should take that back. He's not normally a natural heavy guy. I mean, he's a
Hmm.
little. He's probably. I think he fought at the light heavyweight limit before, which I want to say is uh 190 ish somewhere in there. But
Okay.
I mean, it should be interesting. Tyson Fury is a big dude, big
Hmm.
dude.
Yes, he is.
Um, but it should be interesting. I mean, it's either going to be boring or exciting. Unfortunately, I think if you're looking for the excitement, you might be out of luck. But we'll see. Should be good. It
Keep
should
up.
be good. Um, if Usyk really got to do what Usyk wanted to do, it would be very interesting. He was a cruiserweight at one point, by the way.
Oh really?
Mhm.
Well, I mean, he's been going up the ranks and done well as a fighter. So
The one thing I will say about him is he's not what I would call a fat heavyweight because some people when they blow up in weight classes, they get bigger and not
mhm.
good big. They just like it's like you eat
Yeah.
at buffets twice a week. Usyk's not a pig. I mean, he's not a fat guy. He's just muscular. But when you're and Tyson Fury is not. I mean, when you're Tyson Fury's size, you're going to be a little fat. But Tyson Fury is not a blob. But I feel it's
And
going to
he
be tough
lost
to
weight
beat him.
before his last fight, so
Yeah, there are probably I'd have to think about it and I'd have to send it to you. There are only a few people that I would call like fat. I mean, and again, I'm not one to be talking about people that are overweight, but I mean, I'm also not going in a boxing ring going for 12 rounds. A lot of the guys that you'll see just like hug and walk around the ring, maybe. I mean, there have been times where, I mean, one of the greatest heavyweights of modern times, Lennox Lewis, there were times where you could see he looked sloppy, but I don't know that I would ever call Lennox fat. Like when I say sloppy, didn't train for the fight, came in
mhm,
overweight, but even then, if you wanted a good example of maybe a bigger, fatter guy,
mhm,
I don't know if you remember Riddick Bowe from
mhm,
the early '90s. Riddick Bowe could
mhm.
get probably on the portly side, but at the same time, too, heavyweight boxing since we've been alive has not been just star-studded across the board. So if you were the best heavyweight and you're fighting the fourth best heavyweight, there's quite a gap from you to the fourth. So
That's
I don't know
true.
if you've ever really had to be in quote unquote great shape unless you're fighting the guy that's right there with you.
Mhm. I hear you. And actually, I see that Caitlin Clark, that opening game yesterday, drew 2.1 million viewers across all platforms, made it the most watched WNBA game on ESPN.
I hope the Caitlin Clark excitement can keep going for women's sports, and I really hope it can. I really hope somehow the Caitlin Clark, I don't know what the word is, spotlight, maybe not the right word, but I hope Caitlin Clark can continue to have women's college basketball have eyes on it next year like it did this year. Maybe not to the same degree, but I get worried that, because Caitlin Clark's not playing, a lot of people might check out. And I still think you're going to get some good games in women's college basketball. I mean, obviously, people are going to watch Indiana because of Caitlin Clark. I think she also set a record for turnovers, by the way,
They have 10
in
turnovers.
a WNBA game. So, I mean, obviously, Caitlin, this is the biggest thing I think we got to realize about Caitlin, real quick. Caitlin now is playing against people. She's playing against South Carolina, maybe almost every game.
Hmm.
She's not playing Rutgers or Illinois or and I don't know, they might not have been weak, but you know what I'm saying. She's not
Hmm.
playing a school that has like 2 stars or 3 stars on it. Everybody's a 5 star in the WNBA.
Oh, yeah, easily.
But I wish her
If
the
not,
best.
kind of more. Oh, yeah, I mean, I think she's going to be successful, but I think that there is going to be a learning curve she's going to be hitting, and it just depends on how she does with it.
The one thing that I think you have not said in words, but you have made it out, because with all the exciting college tournaments we've got, with the Caitlin Clark stuff, with boxing, which is my cup, but there's so much. Nobody should be able to say, well, there's nothing to watch this week, because you have a ton of stuff. Your streaming services are good at this point in time. So
Mhm.
yeah, there's nothing that you can't watch. And I want to say, even baseball, which has not gotten to the college conference tournaments, or this coming weekend, I think, and next week.
Mhm.
These are the times too to, like I said earlier, I don't have one specific thing I want to watch, but I got to scout. Because
Mhm.
I have people that, like, I have places I know and that I like, but I don't know the places that are going to play them unless I start watching some other stuff. So
Mhm.
you have inspired me to get the clicker out.
Well, I appreciate that, but yeah, no, for men's baseball, we'll be able to talk about prep for college, some of the college baseball tournaments next week. So, but that was why I wanted to try to start getting into the Women's College World Series, how they have the Super Regionals. So we'll see how those go. But, sir, I think that about wraps it up for today. If we were going to find you outside of here, what would be the best way to find you?
Probably go to X, the Sports Buffet, TheSportsBuffet.
All right. For me, I still need to post on X. It's almost time for my yearly post, so we'll see about that. You can find me there at Alan F. West on Twitter or on Instagram. I'm at Alan.West.46. But that is Bob Alvis. I am Al West. This has been the top 25 rundown on the sportscast. Have a great week, everyone.